Let's go to this now. Fundraising program School Days is warning that the Basic Education Department should not blame the COVID pandemic for poor literacy rates. Now, the progress in international reading literacy, that study found that in 2021, 81% of grade 4s could not read for meaning. Now, the last time this study was conducted was in 2016, with the rate standing at 78%, meaning it's gotten worse. But the department says it now has a plan to remedy this. Let's discuss this further with School Days CEO Paul Esterhuizen. Paul, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I think, first of all, could we possibly blame this huge number on the fact that we had the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is why we are seeing this?
Hello, Baron, and good afternoon, and hello to all the listeners and viewers out there. Yeah, it's a Sunday afternoon, and we're contemplating some of the dire straits that we find ourselves in the education system in South Africa. We seem to find that we're leaving so many children behind because, and it's been written about ad nauseum, about the crumbling infrastructure, teacher shortages, a lack of educational progress that we're making. And what is really happening when we get this declared across our country that 80% of the 11-year-olds, the grade 4s in this country, cannot read for understanding and meaning, which means if we're leaving them behind, have we left them behind because of COVID? And can we take COVID as the fact that that wiped out everything we were heading towards, when the numbers actually are the facts behind what we're dealing with? I think it's pertinent when we're talking about our education system to kind of put a peg in the ground. And it was Madiba who famously said across the country that a good head and a good heart are a formidable combination. And then he stopped it there, paused, and he said, but when you add to that a literate tongue or a pen, you have something very special. And we always know that his heart for education was there. So we have this, it was 3 years ago, we have this blackout across the world where a plague comes in and we all think that the world is coming to a standstill, which it virtually does. And all our teaching and all the learners get to stay at home and don't go to school. And then we wonder and contemplate, and now we assess how many days of learning we've lost. And that has a significant impact because we missed that number of learning days in our schools. So blaming COVID, it's not the reality. The reality is that COVID further pressed the situation into a place of non-recovery. And what we look into the Education Department is to say, can you please tell us what the game plan is going forward to play catch-up? If a child in grade 4 cannot read for meaning right now, will they ever be able to learn? Will they catch up? Will they get to matric? And we know that we've got some really tough matric statistics that come out every year, where 1 in 5 who does make it to matric actually doesn't pass.
All right, so let's talk about, our English and Afrikaans schools when it comes to this issue in the country. Of course, these schools, English and Afrikaans schools, are known to be fee-paying schools, in a sense. These schools didn't necessarily decline in reading outcomes. Does this actually then reveal the significant inequality that remains in our schooling system?
Yeah, Baron, that's hitting the nail on the head. Our fee-paying schools, by virtue of the management capacity that they do have an ability to fulfill the teaching of the curriculum. And as we take this further and wider into our rural areas, clearly there's a lack of accountability, because we're not blaming it. We're saying it's a fact. It's a proven fact that 55% of our learners ever even get to matric or to go and study beyond high school. And if we're looking at this holistically, and we're wanting to understand what's the disparity that we have between English and Afrikaans schools still excelling, because they're the top-end, well-managed, fee-paying schools, and then our African languages schools fall at the bottom end of this research that's been done to tell us that they're struggling to learn. I saw some comment this last week where the Department of Basic Education were actually defending the fact that our grade 4s who were being assessed in the African languages were unable to participate fairly because in some certain ways. And I know that the minister actually cited the fact that she doesn't even know what the Setswana word for an octopus is. And it was one of the questions in the literacy questionnaire that was asked. And it would be great if, instead of defending the fact that we've got this, in the English and Afrikaans schools, let's call them the fee-paying schools, we've got a status of more than 46% of those learners are able to read for meaning. And even that, for me, is a gross indictment on the fact that our teachers are not fulfilling in the delivery of a curriculum. Because if I have a child in grade 1 and I'm the teacher in the grade 1 classroom, surely it is my role to get that child to an adequate level. I need to be accountable to the fact that those whom I'm teaching will get to grade 2 and be able to cope with the next syllabus that comes before them. And likewise into grade 3. And if by grade 4, the grade 3, 2, and 1 teachers have not delivered, then we need to look at our school system. And I know that Jonathan Mulver was recently saying this is an accountability issue. If our schools do not have an accountability to us as parents, to our nation, to the Department of Education, in whichever sphere you're looking at it, to be able to say we as a school have an accountability that our teachers will deliver. I saw some stats the other day that as many as 20% of our teachers are absent on either a Friday or a Monday every week, which means I don't even have to go any further there, Baron. You'd understand what I'm saying. Are our teachers rocking up? Are they pitching up? And then, more acutely, are they accountable? Because the outcomes that we have with our learners, the kids at school, our children whom we entrust into the education system, we need to know that those teachers are accountable to get our children to those basic levels.
Unfortunately,
really
that's
are.
all we have time for today. That, of course, being School Day CEO Paul Esterhuizen. 81% of grade 4 learners can't read with meaning or for meaning. Definitely a very scary number of grade 4 learners. Of course, the question then is there, is there a lack of political will to actually address this issue? But hopefully we will be able to solve this problem very, very soon.